All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Growthentic podcast. We're doing a bit of an SEO session today. So grab your coffees, your tea, sit back. Hopefully you guys are able to pull out a few nuggets here. And of course, you can always reach out to us. You can find me at Sam Lee on LinkedIn. You can always message us on the Growthentic podcast as well. But there's one thing that I wanted to share today, and you might have heard the phrase content is king. And I think that's true. But when it comes to SEO, there's certainly things that are not content centric that can really help your website perform at its peak, retain traffic, but ultimately help convert more of that traffic that you're getting. So the thing that I wanted to talk about today is a custom 404 page. Any website will have instances where someone arrives on a 404 page. A 404 page is just a broken page that either has content or doesn't have content. That's a topic for probably another discussion, but for all intents and purposes, it's a page that serves as, a dead end. They've reached it via a link on your website. Maybe they've reached it via sometimes even a link on search engine result pages, although over time, those 404 pages will get kicked off the index. Maybe they clicked on a link from a different website that was previously linking to a page on your website. So there's a lot of use cases as far as why a 404 page exists and how someone might arrive on this page. It's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, there are some scenarios where you would want to 404 page, right? Maybe the product doesn't exist anymore. There isn't a best alternative page to drive users towards. Maybe it's just outdated information that you thought was better to just remove from your website instead of updating. So there are cases where it's actually recommended to have a 404 page. But the takeaway here today is to leverage that 404 page to the best of your ability to prevent someone from leaving your website. You should give yourself all the opportunity. Well, rather, you should give that person on that 404 page all of the opportunities to continue their experience on your website. For them to continue reading, maybe it's to convert, wherever they might be in their buyer's journey. We don't want their experience to end on the 404 page. So here's a few takeaways. You can, of course, Google things for some best practices, but this is based off of a project that we flighted with a client of ours not too long ago, about, I want to say 8 months ago. And we've now had good enough data to do a bit of postmortem. I'll share some results with you, but here's what we did specifically. Above the fold of the 404 page, have very clear messaging that this user has arrived on a 404 page. Be very front and center about it. Now, you can craft the messaging in a creative way. You can be a little witty. You can be clever. I've seen some brands do this, like they go a little over the top. But what I would recommend is to keep your brand at the center of it. If you can be a little playful and that matches up to your brand and how it's being perceived, then be a little playful. If your business is built on B2B services, if that's what you provide and you consult or provide, executive coaching to C-suite employees, then you don't want to be so playful. You want to be a little bit more, dialed into how you would actually interact with your target audience, right? So take the opportunity, though, at the top of the fold to provide clear messaging that this person has arrived on a 404 page and acknowledge that this is a bit of a dead end stop for them. In addition, in the above the fold section, provide a call to action. I like having a button that easily navigates them back to the home page because that's just, a great way to see all of the pages available to them. But I also love having a call to action button that points them to one of your most popular mid-funnel pages. When I say mid-funnel, I mean a page that targets someone that's in the consideration phase of potentially purchasing or contacting you, right? They're aware of a potential issue or challenge that they're looking to solve with either software, services, membership, whatever the case may be. Point them to what you think is the most popular mid-funnel page. Could be a good frictionless opportunity to get some additional traffic to a page that could serve as potential lead generation. So providing those two call to actions, I thought performed really well for this one client. It wasn't urging them to purchase something right away that might, be too much friction for them to engage in that click. So provide them a click to the homepage and a click to something that they can actually consume without actually purchasing. Lastly, in the above the fold section, captivating imagery. Why I love having some imagery up there is because it slows people down. If it's captivating, it slows the eyeballs down. It slows it's a little psychological. It slows their mouse movement a little bit, just maybe to the point of reading some additional links or some content on that page hopefully before they exit your website. Their attention is caught onto something else that continues their experience. So don't overlook having really good imagery above the fold on your custom 404 page. Below the fold is where you can get really kind of get your curation and your creativity in there. So what we did was we provided a really design friendly grouping of internal links based on different page types. So a good example is if you have a bunch of case studies or testimonials, provide some links to the top testimonials and group them in a design friendly way so it's not really cumbersome, but it's very easy on the eyes to hopefully engage that click. If you have another group of pages, do it in a very design friendly way that outlines all of the available page types that this person can continue their experience on. Again, you can Google these best practices, reach out to me. I'm happy to show some imagery on the custom 404 page that we just built. I have some extra ones in the inventory as well. But we flighted this project with a client about 8 months ago. We didn't do much granular tracking, and we'll get to that in just a second. Just even out of the box metrics that you get out of Google Analytics, you can definitely put together some good pre and post launch data metrics to show either the success or the failure of that project. But thankfully for our client, we saw some really good improvements around 4 key metrics that we tried to improve. The first one was bounce rate, kind of the most obvious one here. And so the bounce rate improved from 62% to 51%. We'll kind of quantify what this all actually means. This is just kind of nice to know numbers, but 62 to 51%, I still think there's some room for improvement, but that was really good improvement there initially. Views per active users. That increased from 1.21 views to 1.3 views. The average engagement time per active user increased from 4 seconds to 9 seconds. And the amount of traffic that actually ended up clicking on one of those links that we curated, whether it was the homepage or that mid-funnel page or the curation of all of those internal links, that jumped from 19% to 28% in terms of completion rate. These are all really good numbers. I think a really great and a fun way to kind of quantify all of this in a way that might make more sense to, or just speak the same language as someone maybe in the C-suite level, is potential revenue gain from this, right? So as an example, let's take all of the numbers that we had for this client and say their website draws in 20,000 active users in a year, which is a very fair average or estimate of traffic. So 20,000 users per 12 months. If we improve their bounce rate from 62% to 51%, that's an additional about 2,200 sessions that are being retained. And let's just say, kind of benchmark numbers here, your conversion rate is about 3%. And the value of your conversion rate, let's just say it's $1,000. Just from this one project, what we couldn't communicate to the C-suite is that we have retained potential revenue of $66,000 for the year just from this one project where we updated some imagery, some content, and some internal links. So I thought that was a really cool and fun way to explain and communicate the value of this project. Now, did we have to provide and validate why we were pursuing this project? No. So we didn't have to go through, a requirements document showing the potential revenue that we would gain from flighting this project. But if you ever needed to, there are ways to estimate some sort of dollar value to this project. But for in any case, I think this is a really relatively low lift and potential medium impact project that all SEOs should be looking. Whether you're working for a SaaS brand or service brand, a local service business, what have you. Don't overlook updating your 404 page. Take a look right now in your Google Analytics platform to see what those metrics are on your 404 page. And add this to the roadmap. This could be a quick one to work on if your copywriting bandwidth is fully capped, and have a little bit of resourcing on the dev side of things, and the design side of things. Yeah, this one I think could be a cool one for you guys to pursue in the first half of this upcoming year.
Nice. Wow, that's exciting. What a just untapped potential there. And I can attest that as we're diving into marketing on our business, that those conversion rates and the retention and getting those folks to actually interact with and then potentially make a purchase or move forward into the next step is so valuable. And what a great example of the immense value that's just sitting there in plain sight for folks, up for grabs. So thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was awesome.
absolutely. It's that user experience too. You always want people to have a good impression, whether they're leaving the website or continuing their experience. Those are all metrics that are really important from an SEO perspective. And whether you believe it or not, those are those behavioral metrics that these search engines do look at to a certain degree. So don't overlook having a great experience, whether that is a custom 404 page or applying some of these learnings to other areas of your website. So hopefully you guys found some of that helpful. Shane, of course, as you're working on your website, if you always want, my little take on certain things like this, happy to take a look. But in any case, if you guys have some follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. You can find me active on LinkedIn. My name is Sam Lee. The company is called Key Rise Consulting.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.